Hello, everybody. We welcome you to this edition of News You Can Use. I'm your host, Thera Martin. Glad to be back with you once again. Today on the program, I get to shine the spotlight on a young woman who is just brilliant in her own right. And the best thing is, she is a graduate of Salle University before she went on for higher education. And so we are so excited to be able to present to some and introduce to others Pennsylvania State Representative Joanna McClinton of the 191st Legislative District. It's going to be her and me for the whole show. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, hello everybody, and I guess I should really be saying happy holidays because you'll start seeing this show in the month of December, but everybody that's a person that would enjoy the holidays, they're starting to get into the spirit. So happy holidays to you and yours, and have a blessed season ahead. On today's edition of News You Can Use, as I stated in our opening, we're talking with Pennsylvania State Representative Joanna McClinton, and we want to welcome you, my friend. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Thera.
Oh, this is such a treat. And it's amazing how God makes things happen, right? Because when you called me earlier today, you didn't know you were going to be doing this show.
Not at all.
But it's a blessing. Everything is, it was open, that it fit for you to be here.
Yes, it did.
You know, because normally, first of all, for those of you who do not know, state representatives normally, except during the holiday season, you would be in Harrisburg on a Monday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. That's when we tape. But you're here, so we're glad for that. Now, you are the Pennsylvania State Representative for the 191st Legislative District, right?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been in that spot now?
So I've been there for 2 years now. I started in August of 2015. I came by way of a special election in the 191st District. It includes parts of Southwest Philly, which is where I'm born and raised, parts of West Philly, all along Cobbs Creek Parkway, and I go into Delaware County, where I serve folks in Yeadon and Darby Borough.
Now, I've got to ask you this question. Did you always want to be a state rep? Did you always want to be in politics, like as an elected official? Or is this something that came upon you by circumstance?
So you were talking a few seconds ago about how God works. This is certainly one of his works and things that have happened by circumstance. Now, 500 years ago when I was a student here at LaSalle, okay, not that long ago, just about 15 years ago, I came here in the fall of '99. I studied political science. I did lots of great internships, but I was on the legal track. I was doing that because a few mentors in my life at the time, they had been here and studied poli-sci, and it got them ready for law school, and they had, for what I saw, was a great legal career. Yes. So that was my plan. Come here, study government, then go to law school, then get into a firm and represent people and have a nice legal career. Yes. I never saw myself holding elected office. I mean, it just wasn't on my to-do list. When I was a young girl, you know, we had those lists. Yes. So my list was a lawyer, a preacher, a hairdresser, and an actress. Okay. And you see nothing on there about being a state elected official. Those weren't on the list. Right.
That is something, again, how God will move in your life. So when the opportunity came, I know there had to be a moment of hesitation. Wait a minute, let me think about it. Let me pray on this. Let me talk to my family, maybe.
Absolutely. So absolutely, all the above. You know, I was a public defender for 7 years doing trial work, and occasionally would get frustrated in court, believe it or not. Not necessarily because of our judges, but because of some of the laws that seemed very unfair. So an opportunity arose in my state senator's office. Senator Anthony Hardy Williams, who serves the same people that I currently serve now, to be his chief counsel. So I applied. I went to Harrisburg. I looked out on the floor of the Senate, and I saw very few women and even fewer women of color that look like us. So I thought, wow, like I never saw, like, just to be on the floor and see them from all over the state and see how few there are. Looked into the House and saw also small amounts of African-American elected officials and even smaller amounts of black women. So it's just something I thought about, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna run one day. I was just like shocked. All these people in Pennsylvania, and this is what the legislature looks like, and it's what it's composed of. So then fast forward to the special election. The Speaker of the House House called it. There wasn't much time for people in Philadelphia politics to determine who their candidate would be. And normally people running for office, you know, they lay groundwork. They say, all right, it's 2017, so I'm looking towards 2019 or 2020, and they make connections. For me, it wasn't a lot of time to even decide. When my coworkers used to joke and say, oh, you know, you live in the district, Joe. I'm like, look, I have a nice private life with a public Instagram account, and you know, nobody knows me. I'm young adult, I'm single, still single in case anyone wants to know. But I'm like, you know, this is such a large, serious responsibility. You know, I didn't take it lightly. So I had very brief time to talk to my family, to my pastor, and people that are very important in my life. My pastor is Bishop Maureen Davis. I've been there since I was a young girl, when I was here at LaSalle, when I was in high school, middle
Name
school.
Of the church?
Open Door Mission, True Light Church. That's at 52nd and Parish.
Shout out.
Very small time to talk about it and think about it. And I am so grateful that I tried. What my ultimate decision was made upon was, who's going to work as hard as you have? You worked hard for many years in court. You worked hard volunteering at that church I just referenced with our young people as a youth leader. You've worked hard. When I was here at LaSalle, I was every organization put a check. You know, neighborhood tutoring, traveling abroad. So it's like no one's going to work hard. So
you
try.
You were prepared for it. Okay, so you stepped in the special election and have been doing the job ever since. One of the things that I notice about you is that you definitely stay connected to the community. You're using social media as well as all the other tracks that one would go on as an elected official to make for sure that your constituents and people outside your constituency know about the job fairs or the health fairs or the senior expos and the other kinds of informational pieces that you're doing. And to me, that is so important, that elected officials, while I know that you have to do your legislative work, be that in Harrisburg or here at Philadelphia City Council or with the federal government, that elected officials don't forget to do the constituent work out there in the district that you represent, so that people know that you're there and that you care, and to offer the kinds of programs that can maybe help people a little bit. You know, I think about folks that, you know, who still don't have health insurance, who may are supposed to have health insurance by the government. It says you're supposed to have it. If you don't, you're going to get a kick in your taxes, penalty. But there are still people, I know people who don't have health insurance, and the only time they can get their blood pressure checked is if they go to a free health expo that an elected official or some nonprofit group is holding, for example.
Yeah, that's a serious concern. And one of my objectives for the brief time I've been in office has been to make sure the people who live in our neighborhood know our office exists. Now, my staff will tell me, oh, we're busy, Rep. We know people are calling, people are coming in. I'm like, but that's a small demographic. I serve 62,500 people like all the rest of my colleagues do across Pennsylvania. So if we're getting about 75 walk-ins and maybe 30 calls a day, and you multiply that, there are more people in the district who might not know we can help them. And that's what's key, because whether it's a straight state issue, whether it's something with PennDOT and your driver's license, or if you're senior or disabled and you qualify for a property tax or a rent rebate, we process that directly, or maybe it's something you need assistance with. We know the wintertime is upon us. As you said, the holidays are here. Sometimes we need help, like my family has needed help when I was growing up, paying those bills for utility. The costs are so high. So sometimes it's LAHEAP. So it's like making sure people know our office is in the middle of our neighborhood, and you can call us with your concerns so that we can navigate you through these issues.
Yeah, and I like that word you use, navigate, because sometimes it's not necessarily that an elected official's office can answer or give you the result that you may want.
This is true.
I find that elected officials' offices that I'm most impressed with, and I've had the experience with your office, and some of my friends who live in your district directly have told me about their experiences with your office, is they'll call, and if it's something that maybe a state rep isn't even supposed to do, because you're dealing with all the things you just listed. And it may be a city issue, but what that staffer will do that picked up that phone who's in your office and those other state rep offices that are on point, has on point staffers, they'll say, okay, well, we don't actually do that particular service here, but I'll tell you what, give me your exact address and your zip code and I'll find the city council person. That's a city issue, and we'll give you that number. As opposed to just say, well, I can't do it, bye. You know, and those extra steps that your people are taking, that you've trained your staff obviously well.
That's right, and that's what I tell them. The many questions that we're presented, they're actually not an answer for them in Harrisburg with some legislative liaison, right? You know, the people we call up when we have a problem with the birth certificate, vital records. So those aren't the questions we can answer immediately, but we have to make sure we provide some sort of answer to get that constituent to a solution, because otherwise that's how people remain frustrated with government and don't want to participate in the process. Well, I'm not voting because they can't help, they can't do anything. And we don't want our constituents to have that sort of vibe. We want them to know we might not have an answer today, but we'll certainly call our Councilwoman Janie Blackwell's staff, who works very hard, or we'll call the streets department. And some of these things take a lot more time than I want them to. You know, I want them to come out and fix these things today. But we work with them through the process.
Good. Oh, that's good to know. I want to know about legislation, and we only have like 2.5 minutes right now for the show. We'll take a break, we'll come back. So we want to do the legislation, and I know that you have a senior event coming up that we want to help you spread the word about. That's on what, Monday?
Tuesday.
It's on
Next Tuesday, December the 6th. So if you haven't heard this yet, Tuesday, December the 6th at Motivation High School, 5900 Baltimore Avenue, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., celebrating the season with seniors.
Okay. Now that's the old Turner Middle School?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Everybody knows it is Turner.
Okay. And so the event is going to take place from
11 a.m. until 2 p.m. and it's a health expo. It's a holiday health expo. So what that means is there'll be holiday music, there'll be some choirs there, and the health fair will be going on concurrently.
Well, now I want to know, is there going to be an opportunity where there's a fitness person up front and we can get up and do a little something?
Because let me tell you,
I need to work off some of this Thanksgiving weight that I put on in the last week and a half.
Oh I looked at my macaroni and cheese pan and said, you need to stop eating this. That makes two of us. There will be a fitness instructor. A woman named Audra, who has her own fitness company, is coming out. I just messaged her when I was on my way up here to remind her to come on Tuesday. She instructs a great class. It won't be too intense, so I can keep up, you can keep up, everybody can keep up.
Oh, that sounds like fun. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. And then, of course, the usual kind of things that you would see at a health fair kind of an activity. There'll be some blood pressure screenings going on.
That's right. Health screenings. Penn Medicine will be there. Sarah Health Center, the Greater Philadelphia Health Annex, which is in our district in Southwest Philly. They'll all be there trying to connect you to a provider, because maybe you don't have the insurance or you don't have a doctor. We want to get you signed up for everything.
And it's going to be FREE?
That's right. Free, free, free.
All right. Tell the date again and the time, please.
Yes. Tuesday, December the 5th from 11 in the morning until 2 o'clock. It's going to be holiday fun, but most importantly, a health expo. Our office is there to provide on-site constituent services, and so many friends, family, neighbors, and friends will come on out and have a good time.
Okay, fantastic. And if folks want further information about the Senior Health Expo coming up, or anything else that you have that you're cooking for 2018 and beyond, there's a website that they can go to.
That's right. It's pahouse.com/McClinton. That's McClinton, and you're welcome to always call our office. It's 215-748-6712. We are here to serve you.
And she's on Facebook too, so lots of information coming from
McClinton.
Representative McClinton. We're going to come back and continue talking with her. We're shining the spotlight on a LaSalle University graduate. Yes, we are, as we continue with this edition of News You Can Use. Stay with us.
It's the small things that make a big difference.
are back, folks, as we continue with this edition of News You Can Use. Now, if you just turned your television set on, you missed a little bit of something, as we put the spotlight on Pennsylvania State Representative Joanna McClinton of the 191st Legislative District. She is a proud graduate of LaSalle University before she went on to law school and all of that, and now today an elected official at the state level. We're so proud of you. And I didn't know you before you were legal counsel. I got to know you just a little bit then, but just barely, because I mean, you were always, your nose was in the legal books and doing everything to represent on behalf of Senator Anthony Williams. So I didn't really get to know you then, but then everything happened, and there was that opportunity that God blessed you with, and you jumped right in, and I'm like, check this lady out. And she's young and she's bright, and I've just been entranced with watching your career as you're going along and praying for you all the time, and having met your mom now when you had your birthday celebration, which was so fabulous, and just all the good things that God has you doing, and your brain is having you create for your constituents and for the better of the community as a whole. So I'm just like saying, go girl, girl, go.
It's a team effort. Thank you, Thera. I'm glad that you're on the team, because you know, it's a daunting assignment to be able to handle the real issues in our neighborhood. They're not minor, and because of the combination of poverty and crime, a lot of times legislative offices are almost like playing multiple roles, right? You know, we're working on legislation in Harrisburg, we're doing constituent services, but we're doing so much more. We're bringing in the Commerce Department so we can address our business corridor, because it's not nice, and we want to enhance it. And speaking of which, I'm so excited to have worked with many colleagues in the House and in the Senate to have my first bill become a law. I got a pen from the governor when I was in Harrisburg last week with my bill signed. I worked on this bill. It was language to make sure that local municipalities can have an enforcement role with the liquor control enforcement. Because stop and goes or to-go beer, these places in many parts of our neighborhood are just an eyesore. I was giving out turkeys last week to constituents right on 60th Street in conjunction with Sunshine Supermarket, and a gentleman came across the street. "You're my state rep, you need to help me." He said, and I quote, "These police are harassing me because I'm standing outside drinking a beer." I said, "Well, sir, would you want your granddaughter, when she gets out of school, to walk past a strange man drinking a beer?" He said, "Well, why are you going to bring my granddaughter into this? And I don't live in Winfield, so I'm going to stand here and drink my beer." And I said, "Well, sir, I got news for you. I guess you'll be calling this Winfield, because we are coming after these places that are not compliant. And particularly the problems are no seating, no public bathrooms, and no food served. So what does this funnel? It funnels people standing around all day drinking, using the facilities or not anywhere in the street, in front of our cars, our houses, where our children are walking back and forth, and it creates really serious problems. And these are ills that aren't in other neighborhoods. They're only in certain sections of our city that they're a problem. I was in Springfield coming from an event yesterday going on Baltimore Pike, and I saw a beer place, and people drove up, bought their beer, and drove off. Now that's how the establishments in our city should work as well, but because they're not following the rules, we have addressed that in Harrisburg, and there's a new language in the law, and it's going to take some time. We've been sitting down with our local officials. You know, the mayor has made a pledge to make sure our local L&I will be able to have the staff that's adequate to go out. But throughout the next few years, we're going to finally see some beefed up enforcement and closing the ones that aren't following the rules.
And I would add on to that, Rep, that as I've been told by the Liquor Control Board officials that met with our community in North Philadelphia, was that we as citizens can do our part to be helpful. So if you see some people that are going to the bathroom publicly on the wall, out on the side of a stop and go in your neighborhood, you need to write it down, the date and the time that you saw that activity, if you can do nothing more. And so we can start getting a list of things that are wrong, chronicling what is going on. Now, I go by taking pictures while I'm driving by with my car. I mean, I'm taking shots when I see, 5 or 6 people standing out in front of the stop and goes in my community, and they're drinking gulp, gulp, gulp down, or they're smoking blunts and they're standing right out in front of the stop and goes. I'm sneaking pictures when I can. Now, I am trying to be safe. I don't want anybody to, beat me up.
And even with that gentleman, he was seeking my help because the police who patrol 60th Street that walk the beat just told him to move.
Doing their job.
Yeah,
doing their job.
You're my rep, you need to help me. And I just brought it to his attention, and he acknowledged he wouldn't want his granddaughter walking by people who are drinking.
Duh. Okay. So anyway, the stop and go issue, it was wonderful to see our state level elected officials along with our city elected officials and our governor on West Allegheny Avenue out in front of the Devereaux Church recently to do that bill signing and to understand that finally there's some real teeth, I believe, in this legislation so that things will begin to change. These stop and goes that are nasty and dirty, you're going to get shut down.
Yes.
Yeah. So now other legislation, 2 years in as a state representative, you have co-signed on some good legislation. You want to talk about a couple of them?
I have. So being a public defender for all these years, I understand how getting a criminal record has collateral consequences. You can lose your license, but also even sometimes if you're arrested and you're not able to get, or if you're not able to get an expungement, you're also in a bad situation. So I was able to co-author the clean slate legislation that just came through. So that's allowing people with low-level misdemeanors to get their records sealed. It doesn't erase it, but when someone does a background search, they won't be able to find the details of, or the circumstances of that arrest or that conviction. So that's a big plus as well.
But then now with a law like that, so help me to understand this. So a person comes for a job interview and the employer likes you and you do pretty good in the interview, so now they want to check out your background. And so then they get a roadblock at a certain point. Me as an employer, I think I would want to still go back to that person who I'm impressed with you. I like the interview, you did well. I want to know more, but then it's up to that individual to share or not disclose.
Yeah. It's up to that individual, because what usually happens is there's a box that says, have you been convicted of a felony? Now, currently, felonies are not covered by this law, so you still have to check it. But one other thing I was able to do is to convince our governor to make sure that in Pennsylvania for state jobs regarding an administration, there's no longer a box. You no longer have to check that and indicate it, similarly to what our city officials did right here in Philadelphia for city jobs.
Okay, all right then. The other thing I want to talk about before we run out of time now, state budget. State budget is supposed to be signed by June 30th.
Oh, you've got it there.
When in a perfect world. I don't know when we've had a perfect world in Pennsylvania. It seems like a long time now since I recall where the state budget was signed on time. And so then you go through the summer and the stress, and I always am concerned about state workers, some friends of mine who maybe not getting a paycheck and that kind of thing. Thank God that hasn't happened. But the state budget this year took, I mean, it should have been done by June 30th of 2017, and it didn't get done until
October, the end of October. And
really late.
What has been happening, and it's been happening in my brief career, which happens to align with Governor Wolf's tenure. Of course, we had a one-term governor who was Republican a few years ago, so the majority, super majority in the House and the Senate have made every effort to try and make this governor one term because they don't like the fact that he beat their the predecessor. So as a result, we've had to fight and battle it out in Harrisburg because we have responsibilities. We collect tax dollars from everyone's paychecks, so we have to send our children to school. We have to pave the roads and pay all the state employees, the people in my offices and others, etc. So one of the combinations that we had to make in terms of a concession was to basically, the majority decided to borrow money and to also expand gambling. So we were able to keep it out of local establishments, but what will happen is at truck stops, there will be video gambling that's allowed. And a lot of times what people in power do is say, oh, we're gonna get all this money from this effort. But the truth will be told by the time we start working on next year's budget. So I look forward to working with Governor Wolf and my colleagues to make sure we continue to invest in our children's education and to make sure we have things like mental health services available, social services available for people who are struggling with addictions and things of that nature.
Yes, got to keep that going. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. We are out of time. I don't know where that time went to, but we appreciate you so much and wishing you all the best as you go forward. A final message, 30 seconds or less, that you want to share with your constituents and with the city?
Absolutely. My name is Joanna McClinton. It's an honor to serve. It's not only the Lord's blessing, but the voters, the people who live in my district that have given me this responsibility. No, I'm working hard for you, and if it's any concern you have, please call my office. We serve you. And I tell my staff, we don't just serve you, but we serve you in excellence. I'm available at 215-748-6712. Let us know how we can work with you to continue to improve our neighborhoods.
Alrighty, and I want to share with you, our viewing audience, that the Philadelphia Martin Luther King Jr. Association for Nonviolence is putting together now all of the final details for their annual holiday party for homeless children and children who come from low-income families in our community citywide. And they always do this mid-December, and they are collecting toys right now for children. So if you have it in your heart, if you are financially able to do so, if you would purchase a child for not a child, but if you would purchase a toy, a gift for a child, ages 0, so babies, on up to age 12. Any kind of nice toy that you can think of, we would appreciate those toys to be delivered to the Philadelphia Martin Luther King Jr. Association for Nonviolence. I think they have 1 or 2 drop-off locations, so you can call their office at 215-751-9300. That's 215-751-9300. Again, the party is always held at the middle of the month of December. We don't announce the location on television or on radio because we don't want people to overflow who were not invited in advance. So we know how many children are coming from homeless shelters around the city. We know how many children are coming that were recommended by local churches and things of that nature. So please call the Philadelphia Martin Luther King Jr. Association for Nonviolence at 215-751-9300, and they will be accepting toys up until December the 12th at least. So give them a call and they'll tell you which location you can drop off a new toy for a boy or girl that you have purchased for babies age 0 up to the age of 12. Thank you so much again for watching on this edition of News You Can Use here at LaSalle TV on Comcast 56 and Verizon Channel 36. You can also check out my radio program at 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Mondays through Fridays, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and that is called Daybreak Onward. Have a great day, everybody, and again, thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.